I'm the lead product manager for Natiza and joined by Brajesh, who's our chief architect, and here to talk about an exciting topic. And I loved how John put it forward is how do you look at your existing platform, which is Natiza, that you invested in, and how do you take it to the next generation? And that's what exactly what we are here to talk about. The content that we're going to go through is going to focus on, at a high level, the investments that we are making in the Natiza engine to cater to the modern workload set, and that includes both AI as well as lake housing. So let's start. I just want to start off with some facts that we already know and we are living through every day, and that's around data. And data within your organizations, data that you're consuming each and every day, it's growing and it's growing at an aggressive pace, and something that we're already aware about. And it's not only the sheer volume of the data that's coming in, and we know that it's going to keep growing, but it's also the different kinds of data that comes within your organization through different sources, right? And that includes structured as well as unstructured. The challenge is how do you make sense of all of that data that is getting generated and that you're collecting? And as the industry is looking at this, you look at Gartner, Forrester, etc. They are also predicting that this is going to be the challenge going forward. It's also going to be creating pressure on the tools that you're using to make sure that they are set up to handle that kind of a demand and the complexity that data brings in. If you look at the data environments today, three things and three themes I would rather say definitely pop up. So the first one is the infusion of AI, and that's not something new. It's not something that's coming. It's already here. It came. It's permeated within our organizations. In your organizations, and you're dealing with it each day as you're working with your data. And the infusion of AI is essentially looking at how do you meaningfully introduce AI within the tools that you work, and different parts of your organization, so that you get more efficient and can do things faster. And at the end of it, it's all about how do you simplify and make it more efficient. So there's definitely a lot of permeation of AI within our organizations today. The second one is lake housing, and it's the convergence of data lakes as well as warehousing. You want the best of both worlds, and you know, no surprises that that is again something that we're already living through. It's not that something it's coming; it's already here. Probably you already started to look at some of those environments and modernizing environments towards that. But the intent there is to collect all of the data that's coming in, and then building on top of it so that you can run some next gen analytics, build your next set of AI applications on top of it. And at the end of it, make sure that the data that you're collecting, you're putting it to good use, and you're running some meaningful analytics to generate some really useful insights for you to further your business objectives. So lake housing is definitely here, and is a theme that we're living through. And then the last one is just a hybrid world, right? And that is something that has now been a constant. We, from an IBM standpoint, definitely recognize it. It's about choice. You could have your reasons to initiate your journey towards the cloud, maybe cost savings, maybe not having to deal with managing the environments, having the providers deal with all of that overhead, etc. Or you could have other reasons where maybe going to the cloud at the moment is not something that you're looking at for geopolitical reasons, for data sovereignty reasons, for keeping the data on prem, etc. So there's a different variety of reasons why you could choose one over the other. But at the end of it, you want flexibility. You want the platforms that you're using to be flexible and to be available wherever you want to be available. So that's the hybrid cloud reality that we're living through. So that's from an industry standpoint how the data platforms or the data environments are maturing and heading towards. From on the platform side of things, of course, it does then create demand on the platforms that are using to cater to those requirements. But aside from those requirements, general from a platform, whatever platform you pick, you of course want it to be performant. That's table stakes, right? As your data grows, as it gets more complex. You want the platform to perform at the same level consistently. So you want reliable, consistent performance. Simplicity is you want to have the platform to be set up in an easy way, but also ongoing operations need to be simple, intuitive, so that you don't have to deal with the overhead of having to go in and change anything. You want those platforms to be simple enough to operate so that you can have your teams be productive as they take it and use it within the environments. Scalability, of course, going back to data is growing, will keep growing. So as data grows, you want these platforms to handle the volumes as well as the complexity of the data that comes in. Openness, again, is a big thing. You don't want vendor lock-ins. You want the platforms that you invested in to work with modern data formats. You want to connect into the whole lake housing theme that we talked about, so that you can, have an ecosystem that works seamlessly, and you can then use those platforms towards actual insights that you want to generate for business objectives. Governance should never be an afterthought. Of course, that's table stakes as well. So you want the platform you adopt to be secure by design, thought through, cater to the requirements of data sovereignty, enterprise grade security, compliance, industry compliance that you're catering to, etc. So all of that is again table stakes, and then flexibility, as I talked about, which is the hybrid cloud side of things. You want the choice to pick and choose where you want to run, and you want those platforms to be available there. That's the requirement from platform standpoint. Natiza is already there, right? For us, it's not something that we are going to think about. We've already thought about, and we've built the platform over the years to cater to those requirements. And from a development standpoint, going forward, those are the pillars or the themes that we always think about, where we take the engine. So, of course, from a performance standpoint, already there. Some of the hopefully all of you and some of you who are on the call already using Natiza, and you can see that it requires minimal tuning. There's predictable performance every time you throw your data at it, so it performs, and regardless of whether that runs on the cloud or on prem, on the appliance form factor, right? So we build the platform to provide you the performance that you need. From a simplicity standpoint, again, the MPP or the asymmetric massively parallel architecture that we build, that's unique to Natiza. It's built in a way where, again, no tuning required. You set it up out of the box. It's, with minimal setup time required, it's you're up and running. And ongoing operations are also easy. At least that's what we've aimed at building the platform towards. Always welcome feedback as we invest in the future. Scalability, again, we can handle petabytes of data, significant magnitudes above that. Openness, as you will see as we go through the rest of the content in the slides today, you'll see where we are investing in terms of support for object storage, support for iceberg formats. Later this year, we are going to look at also introducing integration with the Databricks Unity catalog, but we are building the engine towards the whole lake housing world and making sure that it's available there. Some of it is already there, and future developments that are happening this year and into the next year, you'll be able to connect to different lake housing engines, etc., wherever your data is today. But that's again back to what John said earlier. It's you already invested in Natiza. We want to make sure that you preserve that investment and you're able to build on top. Governance for us is again not an afterthought. It's all IBM products, for that matter, have to go through a very rigorous, secure by design process before that they get generally available. So Natiza is exactly that, and has gone through all of the rigor internally to make sure that it's secure by design and security is built in out of the box. And flexibility. I'm going to talk about the deployment form factors where we are available today, but we are available where you want to run, whether that's on the cloud with different flavors that we have in there. Again, goes back to data sovereignty that we'll talk about, but also on-prem from an appliance form factor standpoint. Where Natiza was born, we're still available there today with the latest generation of the appliance. Um, Having said that, I also wanted to give you a sense of, because we always get the question, hey, how many customers out there are running this? Do customers still have these environments, etc.? So we wanted to put in the work and bring you that data and share, just from a global standpoint, some of the different ways customers are using and where it's running. But in general, we've got more than about two, significantly upwards of 200 and above number of customers and enterprise grade customers across the globe that are still running Natiza day in day out. And this is across, again, globally. So we've got presence across 43 countries and growing. Of those customers, there are many customers who started off with back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, still love the simplicity and performance of Natiza, continue to run it. And we are growing as well in that sense. Across these environments, significant petabytes of data is what Natiza is handling. Performance numbers that we've put in. So we've seen from a comparative standpoint for when the analytic demand gets really complex from an enterprise grade standpoint, Natiza is built to deliver. And then compatibility in terms of SQL and other form factors is something that we already have thought through. Across these enterprises, just again, a flavor of different industries where Natiza has been run today. So banking, you talk about manufacturing, insurance companies, retail, government sectors, telecoms. This just gives you a sense of the industry breakdown of the customer set that we have. But really, the short is that it's powering the modern economy, right? And customers continue to invest. They want, of course, from a feedback standpoint, they share with us where they would like to see Natiza go. As an example, lake housing, availability from on the clouds, the bring your own cloud, etc. So we are taking and we are hearing and taking that feedback to also infuse that in our development to make sure that we are building the engine towards that. Let me now talk about start off with some flexibility from a deployment form factor standpoint, right? So what you see on the screen right now is the form factors where we are available today. So on the cloud, let me start with that. On the cloud, we've got a couple of flavors that are available today, and primarily today it's available on AWS and Azure. On Google Cloud, that is something that we're working towards making available this year. So let me start off with the flavors that we have. So we've got the classic fully managed SaaS flavor available on the cloud, and this is Natiza running in the IBM account on these hyperscalers, and it's fully managed. That complete stack is managed by IBM for you. With the obvious benefits around software as a service, you don't have to worry about any overheads on running about the service, the platform, the underlying infrastructure. All of that is taken care by IBM for you. So you can focus on the productive work, building applications, making changes in your environment, etc., and focusing on modernizing your applications, etc. All of the overhead relating to the actual stack in terms of software upgrades, making sure you've got the latest and greatest in there. If things break down, making sure that IBM's taking care of making the service available ASAP, right, etc. All of that is being taken care of by IBM for you. The In the same context, you've got BYOC, or it stands for Bring Your Own Cloud. But it's again a managed service, so IBM still manages the stack for you. In this case, the complete stack, including the Natiza engine, runs in your account on the hyperscaler. Right? Why that's important? Maybe you're a banking or a retail, or you're just an organization who wants some extra level of control from a data sovereignty, compliance, security standpoint. You want some extra visibility in terms of what's happening in the stack. So that's what Bring Your Own Cloud brings as a benefit to you. So it gets you the benefit of all that is from a managed service standpoint, but at the same time, an extra level or extra layer of compliance and visibility around the security profile, because everything's running within your account. You're able to have that visibility. And again, if anything from a managed service standpoint, anything that you need in terms of managing the stack, whether that means anything broke down and you need help, you have the best of both, on the same table between the hyperscale IBM and you to troubleshoot and resolve, but also things like making updates, patches, making sure that the stack is kept up to date, etc. All of that is being taken care by IBM. As I said, both available on Azure and AWS today, and later down this year, we are planning to make this available on Google Cloud. We'll start off with Bring Your Own Cloud on Google Cloud, and then eventually also bring in the classic fully managed SaaS to it. On the on-prem, we've got the latest generation of the appliance, and probably all of you on the call today hopefully are are knowledgeable about the appliance form factor, because that's how Natiza was built to begin with. So you looked at the previous appliances like Cloudpack for data systems and some of the older appliances. The latest generation in that series is Natiza N4001. It's also referred to as Barracuda. You may have heard that term, but this is the latest generation of appliance that we have on-prem. Um, we've built the appliance in a way to take into account that we are building on the performance. Compared to the older generations, you see a 2x gain in performance from the internal testing that we've done. And of course, it's a plug and play system, right? All the benefits around the appliance still continue to be available. So you get the appliance, it's a plug and play, everything's thought through and performs. And lastly, just from a software standpoint, like everything, like the engine that we have across all these form factors, again, as a design philosophy, we make sure that you get a consistent experience in terms of capabilities, features, etc., that you get that's consistent across these deployment form factors. So that again comes back to whichever form you pick, you get the same performance from an engine standpoint. Um, so that's always a design philosophy that we have. Um, from an upgrade standpoint as well, of course, migration is something. Whenever you hear the word migration, you know, it's an alarm bell. So you don't always, everyone's scared of the word migration, and rightly so, because you know there's effort and a lot of risks involved, etc. But from a Natiza standpoint, if you are an existing customer on-prem, if you want to move to the modern form factors, whether that's cloud, SaaS, or BYOC, or even the latest generation of the appliance, the whole process that we've built in terms of helping you upgrade, it's not a migration of any sorts. It is in its truest form an upgrades. It's a like to like, because as I said, the engine that we develop, we make sure that you know it is consistent and you get the new set of features on the latest form factors. So it's a backup and restore operation. Of course, as you go through that, you always have help available in terms of services. So whether that's through IBM or through our partners that we work with, we just make sure that we are available for you in case you need that extra set of help to get your environments modernized to the latest form factors. And from an from an application standpoint, it's transparent, right? So no changes to the applications that you're running. It's simply repointing it to the form factor that you modernize to. So we build that whole experience accordingly. Quickly getting into what we've been investing in the past couple of years, and been working to put these features out. Let me start off in terms of looking at the first theme that I like to address here is towards lake housing, like our step towards getting the engine ready to handle lake housing construct. So we already support cloud object storage, and that's available on the cloud form factors. It's shortly coming to the on-prem appliance as well, which is the latest generation that I talked about, and 4001. But the whole idea there is, as your workloads grow and your data is growing, you also want to have cost optimization. So with the support for native cloud object storage, the engine supports a tiered architecture. So you have the support for block storage. You also now have object storage supported, and the whole intent there is, as your data grows, anything around having your data where you want cold data to sit, hot data that requires performance. To be stored in block, whereas cold data can be stored in object storage, so that for whatever reasons, there could be reasons where you want to retain some of that archival data, etc. You can have that stored in cloud object. But at the same time, you're getting the cost benefit. You don't have to pay for just storing the data in block, because block is performant but expensive. Object at the same time is we're working towards maintaining the performance, but at the end of the day, it's around all cost optimization. So you all have that available today, and as I said, it's coming shortly to the on-prem appliance form factor as well. From supporting the open data formats, we already have the engine built to have an internal iceberg catalog, where we deal with the open data formats, right? So Natiza can handle both the Natiza native data format as well as iceberg. And as you will hear from Rajesh in the upcoming slides, we're already working towards opening up that catalog to support integration with external iceberg catalogs and engines, so that if you're using Natiza, but at the same time, let's say you're using Snowflake or Databricks or whatever engine, you can have those environments connected and share data, and then you can use Natiza to read data and iceberg data that sits in those engines, and you can run analytics both on top of the data that sits in Natiza as well as some of these external catalogs. So that's from a lake housing standpoint. If you look at the AI, we already have the database assistant. It's an AI infused, chatbot that's already available on our cloud form factors. It's just making life easy for your DBAs as they work with this platform, right? So you could ask questions around troubleshooting. You could ask questions around a specific skill set. What we've done there is we've took the really rich Natiza knowledge catalog that we have, and we've built this experience where it's in your natural language. You can just ask the assistant about questions around troubleshooting and documentation, etc., and it pulls from the knowledge base that we have to give you answers in near real time. This is really, think of this as your friend for your DBS. If you've got junior DBs as an example who want to get up to speed quickly and with the platform, they can definitely rely on the system to do that. But even for senior DBAs, there's so much going on from a day-to-day standpoint. This comes in as a way to make it more efficient to run those environments. Lastly, from a compute scaling standpoint, and again, these are some of the subsets that I'm talking about in terms of new features. There's of course more development happening, but these are some of the highlights that I'm sharing with you. From a scaling standpoint, right, as you look at running on the cloud, one thing more you want to, of course, make sure is you get the cost optimization there as well, right? So we've built or introduced AI, and we want to make sure that we are meaningfully introducing it there in terms of scaling for compute. So let's say if there are periods where you don't have peak demand, the intelligence that we've built in is it does some predictive analytics for you and can tell you that, hey, this is what your run pattern is, or what your workload patterns are at this specific time is when you are scaling up and there's peak workload, and at these times you don't need it, so you can set it up accordingly so that compute is paused and resumed accordingly. And then you get the cost optimization there. So those are some of the new features. Of course, we'll be sharing this deck with you. I've linked in there the articles that go into a bit more detail, so you can read it offline. Quickly before I hand it off to Brijesh, some of the one last thing I wanted to talk about was what's coming up in 2026, and of course we'll always also focus on what's beyond. But let's talk about some of the highlights for 2026 that we're working on. Lake housing, as I talked about, we our plans are to you know make some more investments and developments to have Natiza work well with the whole lakehouse, external lakehouse ecosystems if you're running those. So with the inbuilt catalog that we have, we are going to open it up and integrate it with the external iceberg catalogs. As I said, this opens you up to an environment where if you've got the ecosystem with Natiza, Snowflake, Databricks, or whatever that is, or external catalogs like AWS Glue and some of the other ones, you can have data within Natiza plus data that's in those external catalogs, and you can use Natiza to read into the data that sits in those external catalogs, combine it with the data that sits in the Natiza catalog, and run those analytics accordingly. Later down this year, we also plan to introduce integration with the Unity catalog. We've got many customers who are focusing on Databricks as well, so we want to make sure that the investments that they've made in Natiza, they can protect those investments and grow on top versus having to throw away that and then extend that investment into operating it in the whole Databricks ecosystem. So similar to what I talked about, the integration on the left hand side, that's the plan in terms of where we want to take the engine in terms of Databricks. We've got native vector and unstructured data support coming up shortly. This is You've got vector embeddings that you've created. They can be stored in Natiza, and you can run analytics on top of unstructured data. But even from an unstructured data support, so you've got PDFs, audio, images, some of these other files. You can simply upload those within Natiza, and we've built the intelligence and algorithms for the engine to process it and make it ready for query. Right. So we are developing that experience to provide simplicity. But at the end of the day, for you to handle both structured and unstructured data in a single engine, you don't need a separate vector database, as an example, uh, to work with vector. You can have Netiza do that. And then finally, I talked about Google Cloud. That is something, in terms of getting the cloud options available on Google. We are starting off with Bring Your Own Cloud. That's the focus for 2026. And then early next year, into 2027, we'll focus on bringing the classic fully managed SaaS service and make it available on Google Cloud. Again, these are some of the highlights that we're working on. There's other developments that are happening. So really exciting time for Netiza as you look at this. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Brajesh to get into a bit more detail.
Thanks, Sri. Awesome presentation. Hi, everyone. My name is Brajesh. I've been associated with Netija for a long time. So I just want to give you like some context about like what we are doing, right? And before I can jump into this architecture. So if you look at here, look at like, Netija was started as an appliance, right? So starting 2000, we lived all the way to 2017, 18. That's where like we were just dealing in appliance. But then if you look at like from there all the way up to today, right? We have done huge investment and modernization into our engine and different deployment form factor the Sri talked about. So think about from appliance, our journey was next to the cloud, right? And we produce cloud offering. And then if you look at, I'm just talking about platform point of view, the again new appliances that Sri talked about. But I just want to also talk about the engine modernization that we have done along the way, right? And that's very important. So if you look at last like 7, 8 years, what all things we have done? We launched cloud, and then we made our services as like microservice where it's not appliance that's running in the cloud, right? And that also helped appliance our next generation appliance. I'll talk about that. So we have really modernized our engine to support cloud native features. That's one thing we have done. Then we started our journey looking into object storage because object storage was really important, right? So we started working on object storage. It took like us like a year or two to produce that. We were just like creating the fundamental. So the object storage is another thing that we have modernized. So we converted cloud to cheaper, like that way we can support cheaper pricing and costing. And we are not done it. It's like rolling it out like in phases. Then our focus was like, okay, how can we make Netiza to a kind of lake house platform, right? That's where what we have done is we started investing into engine and some of the stuff that she was talking about, where we want to figure it out, how can I make Netiza as a lake house platform, right? And that's where open table format came into the picture, and the catalog and data. So format is one thing, and also like we are gonna be we are gonna be launching some open catalog soon, but still already they're running on the cloud is like based on Iceberg Race catalog. So we are really investing into Lakehouse where format, Unity, Iceberg, as well as we'll have our own open data catalog, right? So that's a big thing. Then we are our eventual goal is, we are hoping that by 2027, um, we can be a AI data platform. Once one AI data platform, meaning you don't have to go anywhere. You can pretty much run all your workload and around surrounding things like, such as like, if you want to do ETL or ingest data, do some AI, Lakehouse, you can pretty much do it on AI data platform that we are creating. So if you look at here, like, we really have invested a lot and we are making huge investment, not just like only one platform, but if you look at everything that we talked about, like she talked about 4 deployed form factor, these features will be there even on Barracuda software only. uh, it will be everywhere, and that is the strength of Netiza, where our focus is hybrid cloud architecture with all these modern features. So I'm really excited about Netiza and Netiza future. And what we have done is we couldn't like include every feature, every new thing that we talked about. We just like handpicked few important ones. So I'll just gonna over and talk about that. So the first thing, if you look at here, the cloud native object storage, right? So we call it native cloud object storage. So basically, if you look at what we have done is, and as you know, like Netezza is known for performance, so we really have utilized the MPP architecture even for our object storage. So the architecture is, if you look at, it's pretty straightforward. Um, as you know, we have NPS host, uh, where like our BI tools or any ETL tools they connect, and then we have bunch of spoos. So now if you think about the spoos is like, if you're talking about appliance, the spoo runs on bare metal. If you're talking about cloud, it runs as a container on one of the OpenShift platform or one of the hyperscaler Kubernetes platform. But essentially the same code running. That's the important thing. Whether you are running on bare metal or whether you are running in a container or whether you are running in a VM or whatever, is the same code that is running across all the form factor. And we have really made a lot of effort because it took us like a year or so to make sure that we are running the same code everywhere, and that based on that we can create the hybrid cloud architecture, right? So coming back to here, if you look at this blue um, disk, those are like block storage, so you can still use block storage. You can connect to the spoos and you can land your hot data on those block storage. Because think about whether you can talk about Barracuda or appliance or even cloud, those are the premium disks, right? So those are like faster premium disk, like more expensive. So what you can do is, like, the way if you're architecting, right, architecting, you can keep your hot data on the premium storage. Now what happens is you can bring an object storage. Let's say at the moment, like, we are also trying to help our on-prem customers, because in cloud is pretty scalable. Like if you do AWS S3 or Blob, it's pretty scalable. But on-prem, we need to make sure we qualify one of the object storage box or one or couple of them, so that our customer can go and easily integrate with their object storage and get the performance that they need. So what you can do is, and it's pretty straightforward. You have your object storage. There is a script that we you need to call. You call the script. It will be integrated in NPS, and you can land your table like it's today. Like let's say you're creating a table, create table T1, right? And today is landing on our block storage. Same syntax, same command. You just do like create table T1, and there are like four different ways you can land it on object storage. One way is the global setting. You can set in the global one of the configuration file, and you can say, hey, now going forward, any table that I create, it should be in object storage. It should land on object storage. You can do that. The other option is we can say create table T1, and then you can specify your storage type object. You can do that way. You can use session variable. Why I'm talking about this thing? Because one of the value proposition of Netezza is simplicity. We want to produce a simple experience to our customer, and more importantly, when they're going to object storage, they don't have to change their application, right? So that's what we did. It's pretty straightforward. And our goal, right, is to get the performance output on par performance with block storage as well. What we have done for that, we have designed our own proprietary caching solution. And we are because we know like how our Netezza perform or behaves. So that's how we have created our caching. And um, to begin with, cloud, because cloud's easier to get caching NVMEs, right? So in the cloud, we are getting performance parity, right, with object storage. And that's like a big achievement for us with the technology that we are in. And the same thing we are taking it from cloud to Barracuda or appliance. The same thing will be designed here as well. Uh, we are working on that. First phase is gonna be without caching, because what we are trying to do is for appliance or a customer is to just land whole data where they don't want the exact performance. In future, in second half, we are gonna be bringing the caching thing here, because the reason we have divided in phases, because if you have to add more NVMEs or do something to partition your existing NVMEs that attach to appliance to be used for a block and then caching solution. But overall, what is our objective? We are going to be on par performance with block storage. And that's big statement I'm making here. We have already proven the cloud. and it will be the same on-prem as well in coming time. Next slide, please. So if you look at here, like, again, going back to the point that we're discussing, where we are taking Netiza, we are taking Netiza. It's not a data warehouse anymore. It's gonna be transition into lakehouse and AI data platform. Right? That's our vision. That's what we are taking. How we are trying to achieve that? So as you might have seen, block storage was already there. Customer can use block storage if they want very highly critical workload that required super performance and all this stuff. They can continue using it. Object storage is complementing that, where it's creating a shared architecture where you can share your data. You can also replicate your data wherever you want. So that is kind of enabling us lakehouse environment. And then the data lake is really important because the way industry is transitioning into is where you want iceberg or open table format so that there's no vendor lock-in. Customer can share data between various different engine. So if you look at here, like, these are the big thing that we are delivering. So that is our vision. And what you can do is here is now we support all of them depending on like a second, like if you're doing a heavy write, use block storage, object storage to begin with the warehouse kind of workload where you ingested data once, now you are doing analytics on top of it. And then last thing, third thing is like if you want to share with another engine to be part of this bigger ecosystem of lakehouse, you can use open table format iceberg. Soon delta will be supported as well. Even it will be supported on prem as well. So here is like the other thing. So we talk about what are the thing in object storage. Now let's talk about like the main lakehouse integration, right? Because that's everywhere when you're going and talking to your customer, or you want to create your own data lakehouse, this question will keep coming. What is our approach here? So first thing, if you look at here, um, the orange box right here, it is Iceberg REST catalog. So what we have done is we have locally embedded Iceberg REST catalog in the engine itself, right? So that if, let's say, if you're our customer want to create a lake house, you don't need to depend on any other external metadata or catalog services. You can start using Netiza today and use the locally embedded Iceberg catalog, and then you can start creating Iceberg table. Okay, what are you doing with that? With that, you have started your lakehouse journey already, right? Now, think about this way. Uh, the way it will work. Let's say you have a query called select star from table underscore iceberg. You want to run that query. The first it will go to same host. By the way, we are the one of the first engine because we already had presence in data warehouse. We are trying to make sure that we are almost 100% compatible when it comes to the SQL query. Again, I say like with Iceberg, because different format, it's very challenging, but we are here to support our customer, and our target is 99% compatibility. There are some nuances that always be there. So same type of query you can run. What I do, it will go to NPS host. Then it will talk to the locally embedded catalog that we have already introduced. From there, what you do is like, okay, it will say, hey, give me the schema and the data file or task for this table, Iceberg table. So once you have gotten the schema and data files, it will be distributed. The task will be distributed across all the spoofs. This is the strength of Netiza because you are using MPP architecture. So we'll run your query in parallel to get the performance. And our goal is to be as closer to as like native table when it comes to performance with Iceberg. Now you have established your lakehouse and you have figured out what data you want to share. Now, if you are bringing any other lakehouse, let's say if Databricks or any other or Spark or Watson data, like there's another lakehouses. They are maintaining their own Iceberg table, right? So we call it an external catalog. So you can also integrate this external catalog and it can be federated through. So what I'm trying to say is like this architecture enable us to be integrated with other data lake, as well as other data lake engines or house can also uh, connect to Netiza as an external catalog, and then they can access Netezza Lakehouse tables as well. So this is our vision for Lakehouse is upcoming in 2026 across all the forward-looking platforms. So that is our goal. That's what we are focusing on. Next slide, please. I'm gonna be quick because I just want to also demo a couple of things, new things. So I'm gonna quick here. So like Sri was talking about, this is another thing that we have done. This is where we are taking AI to the next level, and almost everyone is doing. We just want to make sure, because our customer has invested into Netezza platform, they don't feel left out. So that's why we are bringing everything sooner. The database assistant, what has happened? So what we have done is, as you know, we have Netezza Knowledge Center documentation. We have support some documents, right? We have vectorized those documents and stored in a vector database, so that today, if you want to find something, you just have to go, okay, let me first find the link, Knowledge Center. Oh, I got 5 links. Which should I use? We have solved all of them. Now the information is at your hand. You just ask this assistant that, hey, can you tell me like how can I create a UDX in Netezza? You don't have to go and look at 10 different links or documentation. Your AI can to tell you, the assistant can tell you here how you'll do it. How he's doing it is talking to the knowledge database, vector database that we have already created, and then using LLM is going and getting the answer. And if you look at like this is the pretty standard flow. Basically, it's a RAG use case that we have created. So that's one use case of this AI assistant. But that's not the main use case because anyone can do it. The main value proposition for this DB assistant is the skills, the real-time skills that no one else can provide you. If you go to Chat GPT or they don't know because they don't know about Netezza. And the skills are something like, hey, why my system is not performing, right? Why? What are the top 5 long-running queries that were run Monday between 12 to 2 p.m., right? CPU utilization, right? So those questions that you can ask in human form, you can also have the time range. It can go and figure it out and provide the information. That is the main value proposition is AI database assistant that you cannot get anywhere else. So we can talk more about that, but these are the main thing that we are bringing. And then we started off with like, one platform, and eventually it's going to be available on Barracuda as well. The last thing is AI infused smart scaling. I think we have 2 more. So basically, it's like, in the cloud, mainly what we have done is we wanted to make sure is why we are better than some of our competition, right? If you talk about some of the competition, I don't want to take the name, but you figure it out. When they support auto scaling, when they detect that, okay, CPU utilization is like more than 80% or something, they just double your compute. And what happens after 4 months? Oh, why I'm spending $1 million for this environment, right? Netezza has taken a different approach. Netezza has taken an approach where Mr. Customer will help you decide, make your decision, right? And that's where we introduce this AI infused smart scaling. I don't think anywhere in the market anyone has this AI infused smart scaling, and we were the first to introduce this. Basically, what happens is we have created different models in Netezza, and as you know, Netezza is pretty good at query history. So we kind of store every aspect of our workload, how the system is using resource utilization, everything that we store. It goes and looks at the data, and then it can predict that, hey, based on your current workload, this is how your system is being used. And going forward in future, 1 week down the line or 2 week, you might need to scale up your system or scale down your system. And then this is suggestion is giving is also giving the accuracy. Now what you can do is you can say, okay, I want to incorporate this suggestion, and then bingo. Then now the system will just scale up based on the AI input and based on your review of that AI input. So this is a very powerful thing. And the reason being it, with this approach, we are just following the demand. Supply follows the demand, right? So and you're not doubling the cost. That's the main advantage of that. So if you're on the cloud, go and look into that. It's pretty powerful tool that we have already created. Go to the next, please. So the other thing is, if you look at here, vector array type, right? Again, going back to AI data platform vision that we had in mind, right? So what we have done is we have figured it out. There are some use cases where customer might want to store a vector data type. So we have introduced vector data type. It does support some built-in distance operator L1, L2, right? And the main value proposition here is, and here is syntax, like we can talk more about that. We support up to 2200 dimension and all. The main use case that we want to solve here is you can join your structured data with unstructured data, right? And do RAG, right? And why it's important? Because again, Netiza is known for performance. So what the way we have designed vector type, it's actually running on the spoos. So it's actually giving the performance more than anywhere else in the industry, right? So we really have invested a lot here. And I have a demo on this, so I can go over and play the demo. But this is just a start. And it's upcoming in 2026. It's going to be pretty soon. Um, Go to the next one, please. Uh, Before I start the demo, I'll just go ahead one demo. I have to give some time back to Sri. Is unstructured data. So what we have done is, think about this way. We have tried to create two pipelines mainly, where the first pipeline is you are bringing unstructured PDF files. Let's say you are staging in a bucket somewhere or some staging location on the file system. And then you can say, hey, I want you to read this PDF file and ingest into a lakehouse table or a native table, right? So that one pipeline you create, and you can also say that, hey, any changes to my staging, you auto detect it and then ingest back to the table. Or when I create the pipeline, I specify the table and schema. I just want to ingest you. So that's one pipeline you can create. The second pipeline that you can create, you can say, hey, I have this PDF, and then I just like parse it, and I want to store that information like on a parsing or vectorize and do embedding into a vector database in Netiza or Lakehouse. You can pretty much do that, right? And then you can bring your own LLM to perform any insight out of that, right? So we are running out of time here, really. So we are just building this pipeline, and with that, what you can do is you don't need to go anywhere else. You can use Netiza for your unstructured use case as well. Our goal is to support all the like PDF, images, JSON, XML, and other unstructured format. With that, I just want to play one demo. Uh,
Yeah, so Brajesh, you'll have to share your screen for the demo.
Yes, I'll do that once. All right, I have to go here. Okay, I think I lost this. Okay, here.
Rajesh, you should find it on the video bridge.
Yeah, do you see the option to share? It's if you go to the left-hand side, you see an upwards arrow.
Yeah, so I just okay, got it. Thank you. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Data is evolving, and so are workloads. Introducing IBM Netiza Unstructured Data Support. With Netiza, you can unlock insights from unstructured content like never before. Let's see it in action. Start with extracting tables from a PDF and store them in Netiza native tables. Now take it further with automated workflows, schedule processing pipelines, so that as new files arrive, they're automatically ingested, processed, and made query ready. No manual steps, no delays. This is a game changer. For the first time, the same Netiza engine handles both structured and unstructured data workloads, Transform raw documents into structured insights. Join structured and unstructured data on the fly. Use the full power of SQL across all your data, all with the performance you expect from a data warehouse. Coming soon across Netiza.
So that's how I answers the go over. Like, we're running out of time. Maybe next time we'll demo more. But with that, I'll just gonna hand over back to Sri.
Yep. Thanks, Rajesh. Just to confirm, are you seeing my screen again?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So, folks, as we move towards the end of this session, again, just a highlight of some of the exciting things that we're working on for the Netiza engine across the deployment form factors. But from our side, we are really excited to bring these features to you. And of course, feedback is always important. So we do value any and all feedback as you try out these new features as they get rolled out. To you reach back out to us and see where we can help and improve further. As I said earlier, we will be sharing these slides with you to the customers that we talked about in earlier in the session. I just wanted to provide a subset of some of the different customers that we've got across the globe and the different ways that they're using Netiza within their environments. I've linked in the articles in here to for you to read offline. But you're in amazing company, and again, thank you so much for being trusted customers and investing and trusting your businesses with Netiza. Um, if this was helpful, and hopefully it was helpful and exciting, of course, from a next steps standpoint, if you are running Netiza, if you've got some of the older appliances, want to talk about how do you start your modernization journey towards the latest form factors that we have, we are here to help. You know who your IBM team is. Please feel free to reach out to them, get a meeting in place. Happy to come and talk to you. We're also happy to do one-on-one roadmap sessions for you and your team, so that you can have us come in and talk about where we are going ahead with investments in the Netiza engine, and we can also take questions and address any of the feedback that you have for us. With that said, this was it for today. Again, thank you so much for providing us your time. Really excited, as I said, in terms of the future for Netiza. And before we finish, I know if there are any questions, we did want to save some time towards the end to address those. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are questions that
So
weren't answered.
the first question is, do you have any new logos as BP? I'm seeing many Netiza customer shifting to other solution. If so, are they willing to talk?
Yeah, so Joel, we've got a mix of existing customers that are modernizing to the latest form factors. That's, in all transparency, the bigger chunk. We also have some new logos where they want to explore Netiza. We've got options available to get them started as soon as possible on our cloud form factors. As an example, we do offer trials for them to quickly get started and see if Netiza is the right platform for them. Again, this goes, everything else also comes in. If they wanted to have a product conversation, happy to come and talk to them. In terms of are they willing to talk, it really depends, right? There are companies who would want to share their experiences, so it's always comes down to do you have NDAs in place, etc. Go down the list. But if you have certain customers, please feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation offline.
Yeah. I can take the second question. So Netiza can share its EWD data structure using external data catalog with other lakehouse implementation without need to copy and export. Also has Netiza query data in Apache Iceberg and Parquet file. So it's mainly about like the data sharing is mainly about open data formats, right? So we are not going to be like we can't share the native format because other engines don't understand. So if the data is open, like Iceberg table, like say whether it's what's created by Netiza in Iceberg format or any other engine created Iceberg table, then both engine can access the data.
Awesome. Thanks, Rajesh. And I see Ronnie has answered the other questions in the chat. So Ronnie, thank you so much. All right, team. That's it for today. Again, thank you so much for your time. Have a nice rest of the day. And if there are any follow-up questions that come up, feel free to reach out to your IBM account team, who will then engage us, and we're happy to come in and answer those questions to help you progress. All right. Thank you, everyone.